Hello and welcome to Tasting with Mike and Matt. I'm Mike Veach and this is my partner in crime, Matt Kohorst.
Howdy.
And today we thought we'd do something a little different. You know, while you were out with the COVID,
yeah,
Rosemary and I did a video on the Cellar Aged Maker's Mark.
That's a really good video.
Right.
Yeah.
And Rosemary did a damn good job.
She really did. Now it's my turn with the Cellar Aged.
Yeah. Right. But you don't have to worry too much because she's not a big fan of being in front of the camera. So
yeah, there we go.
But anyway, I was thinking it'd be interesting to try their Cellar Aged, which is 11-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's 85% 12-year-old, 15% 11-year-old.
Right, so it's a little mix.
Right. But try it versus the DNA project, the 110 proof, the barrel entry proof, that was aged 8 years. And try, the difference being here is that first one spent 6 years, 5 or 6 years, I should say, aging in the warehouse.
The Cellar Aged?
The Cellar Aged did.
Okay.
But then moved to the cellar for 6 years.
Okay.
Whereas the DNA was aged 8 years in the warehouse. There were 400 barrels of the DNA project altogether. They did 100 barrels at 110 proof, 100 barrels at 115 proof, 100 barrels at 120 proof, and 100 barrels at 125 proof.
Okay.
So they had 400 barrels altogether. There was 100 barrels in this DNA project. And they were subject to the same rotation and such that every other barrel does.
Okay.
So this is all aged completely in the warehouses. So I thought it'd be interesting to see. There's 4 years difference in the cellar versus the warehouse being aged.
Right, so this is all warehouse. This is a mix of warehouse and cellar.
Right.
And this one is a mixture of 11 and 12-year-olds old. I think everybody probably knows this, but if you put an age statement on something, you have to go with the youngest whiskey in there, right? So if it's got even mostly 12-year-old,
yeah.
But
as long as it has that one
9
barrel of 11-year-old whiskey in it, it has to be 11-year-old.
You have to call it 11 years old, which I think that's interesting. That's something I didn't know before, we started doing these videos. So if you didn't know that, well, now you do.
Yeah. And full disclosure, I have this unopened bottle of the 110 DNA that we got from the whiskey drop.
Mm-hmm.
But I've also got a bottle that's mostly drank, but it's the whiskey that when Jane Bowie and the Maker's Mark team did a tasting of this before it came out for the local press. We went to it and everything, and I'd given Jane a lot of information on barrel entry proof history and such, over the years. Well, because, they did this DNA project because they were afraid that when Jim Beam bought the distillery,
mm-hmm.
they were going to force them to raise the barrel entry proof from 110 to 125.
Okay.
And they didn't want to do that, and they wanted to show the difference that the barrel entry proof, raising the barrel entry proof, makes. And the 110 is definitely a lot more flavorful and less tannic and such than the 115, 120, or 125 proof. But anyway, Jane, after the event was over with, she gave me the bottles as a thank you for the help I'd given her on the barrel entry proof history and such.
Oh, that's nice.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour the barrel entry proof DNA from this bottle, which is still slightly different from this one, because this one here is a 114.9 proof, whereas the stuff that we tasted there is 116.
So it's, yeah, a little bit more than 1 point higher.
Well, but I also wanted to do it this way because the proof on this Cellar Aged is 115.7, so it's almost 116.
Oh, so you were getting really close to each other.
So we're getting closer to proof.
Yeah. Well, I like that idea. I think that's a great idea.
So I'll tell you what, let's pour the DNA first.
Okay. So what's the DNA about?
Well, the DNA that's just their way of saying, original Maker's Mark had this 110 proof, and we want to keep it and everything, so we're just, calling it the DNA, the makeup of Maker's Mark.
Oh, okay.
The true Maker's Mark. So, let's nose this.
Okay. Great color.
Yeah, great color. 8 years old. You get that very nice caramel, apple, a little bit of hazelnut maybe.
You can just this is Maker's Mark as soon as you.
Just a hint of oak and
that caramel and that kind of almost like caramel apple vibe.
Yeah.
Just really shines through.
And there's a hint of baking spices in there, but it's nothing dominant.
Right. I've always loved this.
Yeah.
The nose on the Maker's Mark.
So let's take a sip.
That's just wonderful. That's just looks like caramel, apple, cinnamon, oak. And it's got a great, that oak just sits there.
Yeah.
It's and the mouth feels really good. It's not overly viscous. It's not watery. It's
creamy.
Yeah, yeah. And it's full of flavor.
It's like you just bit into a chocolate covered candied apple.
Yeah. Oh man, that's so good.
Yeah, with a little bit of that hazelnut on it, sprinkled, or maybe even peanut. I don't know.
Yeah.
But there's a nuttiness.
If you're going to a candy shop, and they've got the caramel apples and the fudge and all that stuff. This is the culmination of that feeling I got when I was a kid.
The finish is very good.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you what. Before we do anything with the pecans and the cranberries and such, let's taste the DNA or the Cellar Aged.
Now this bottle is pretty hard to find, right?
Right. Pretty much impossible to find now, I would say. They had a release at the distillery during the Bourbon Festival, and I pretty much guarantee that it was all sold out the day that they released it. I'll cleanse my mouth first with some water.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, cleanse the nose.
And now let's nose this. Oh, there's even more richer caramel chocolate.
It's a heightened, yeah.
Right. It's the extra 4 years.
Yeah. You definitely get more caramel, more of the richness, maybe because it's been in the barrel a little longer, I'm not sure, but...
Yeah.
But it's a similar nose.
Yeah, very similar. You get that apple, you get that hazelnut, you get that...
Just lovely, oh yeah.
A little bit of oak. And like I said, that indeterminate baking spices.
Yeah.
There's a spiciness to it, but can't really make it out.
Right. All right.
Let's take a sip.
That's even better.
Yeah.
There's a butteriness to it that's really good for me, that I just taste.
It's like a buttered caramel.
Yeah, buttered caramel. Like buttered caramel popcorn, that hint of apple.
Mm-hmm. A little bit of a cinnamon spice.
A little bit of cinnamon spice. Oak pleasantly sitting. And, Yep. That's pretty close to just one of the most perfect taste of whiskeys you could have, right? Like, I mean, that's just...
Yeah. Good stuff.
Very, very good stuff.
So let's cleanse our palate.
Yeah.
Let's go back and do both of them with the cranberry now, starting with the DNA.
Okay.
Oh, that really brings out the caramel. I mean, it's like a caramel chew with a little bit of apple and cinnamon.
Yeah.
And oak. Oh, that's damn good.
That's very, very good. Or Charleston Chews, remember those back in the day? Oh, man, yeah. This is like candy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's cleanse our palate. Try cranberry with the Cellar Aged. Interesting. Not as rich in caramel as the DNA.
It's not.
But more apple.
Yeah, it really brings out the fruit more.
Yeah, it brings out the apple and that cinnamon and oak.
Yeah, the oak really lingers on that one.
But
Yeah.
you know, with the cranberry, I like the DNA better.
I think so too. Yeah. I think you're right. Which surprises me. I think neat. I'm going Cellar Aged.
Right.
Cranberry? Yeah, DNA. I like that. I like, yeah. They're both very, very good, you know? Now, is DNA something that they keep doing year after year?
No, they only did 100 barrels.
For that one?
Yeah.
That one season or 1 year?
Bro, they made the 400 barrels all at the same time and put them away in the warehouse, and then that's all they, you know, they aren't aging anymore.
Yeah.
That I know of. I mean, they could very well do the 110 proof or 8 years.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's in their plan. You know, they say that Maker's Mark, you know, they say that they never do, you know, this is the oldest whiskey that they've ever done and such. Which, you know, the DNA, or the Cellar is the oldest and it's 11 years. But back in the about 1980, they had a gold wax 101 proof 10-year-old Maker's Mark that they used to sell. That was really good whiskey.
Yeah.
You know, but they seem to have forgotten about those bottles because they talk about, oh, we've never made a whiskey over 6 years old, you know, before, you know. Well, yeah, they have.
Well, yeah. You remember.
But anyway, let's try it with a pecan. Try the DNA. Oh, that's really good. Rich caramel, apple, cinnamon, maybe a hint of cardamom. So I can get just a hint of citrus note on it. And then
Oak, yeah. Very pleasant, like a nice sweet oak.
That's good.
That's very good.
Yeah.
It's going to be a tough act to follow.
Yeah. Once again, not as much caramel, but that apple
That apple's really good. I think it was spicier.
Yeah, and then spicier, a lot of spice. There's
Yeah.
definitely cinnamon, maybe a little ginger even.
Yeah, yeah. Nice oak finish.
Nice oak finish.
Thinking what I'm thinking? We thinking the DNA wins that one too?
I think the DNA,
I think the DNA
is
wins
probably
that
a
one
little
too.
better with the pecan.
Wow. I'm really surprised here.
Yeah. So let's cleanse our palate. Let's try it with a bite of chocolate. The DNA. Now the chocolate seemed to take the caramel out of it.
Yeah, it actually muted a lot of things.
Yeah, you get a little bit of that apple, you get a little bit of the spice, you get a lot of oak.
Yeah. It's almost like that, the sugars from the dark chocolate, kind of like, I would say kind of overpowered a little bit.
Right.
Of it. I don't know what it is, but it definitely like, yeah, it muted things a bit. Even the oak isn't sitting there too heavy,
Right.
you know? Interesting.
Let's try the Cellar Aged with chocolate. Now that really brought out vanilla, a little bit of a citrus, some spices.
That's really good.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah, I think
Little
with the
brown
chocolate,
sugar.
the Cellar Aged is better.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Stood up to the test. Like it. I'm getting the brown sugars.
Yeah.
Getting that nice spice sitting back there. Like it's, for me, what do you think that spice is? It's hard to tell for me.
I'm thinking maybe cardamom because that little bit of citrus I was getting.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's really good.
Yeah. So, anyway.
So what do you think?
I think definitely drinking it neat, Cellar Aged.
Cellar Aged for sure. Yeah.
The Maker Mark DNA went better with the cranberry and the pecan.
Mm-hmm.
But the Cellar Aged was better with the chocolate.
Yeah. So I think DNA, what do you think? Good whiskey sour? Amazing whiskey sour.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But I tell you what I take out of this tasting is that the Cellar Aged is very good, but they could get the same thing just by aging Maker's Mark for 8 years. Get a really good whiskey at an 8-year-old Maker's Mark without having to pull it all out and put it in the cellar. And
I think you're right. Yeah, because I mean, this is a very close side by side here. Like I'd say they're pretty much even for me. You know, like
right,
like neat. Yeah, neat. Cellar Aged. I'm going cranberry.
but the DNA is right up there with them.
Yeah, yeah. So that's
yeah.
There we go.
So I'm saying, Bill Samuels, if you want to make a really good whiskey, just age it for 8 years. I mean, that's DNA proves it. That 110 proof DNA project, that's what you do. You put your whiskey in the barrel at 110 all the time. Just age it for 8 years.
Get to about that, 116 there? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely delicious. Yeah. All right.
All right. So, Maker's Mark. Cheers.
Cheers.